Within the ALAT Chapter 1, I'm going to talk about the field of laboratory animal science. I'll discuss what ALAS is, why we use animals for research, the opposing views for research, members of the research team, interpersonal relationships at work, and career opportunities for all three levels.
So welcome. You working in this industry are now part of a vast field that has directly improved the lives of both people and animals. And that's a very important point. It's not just people that benefit, it's also animals. We as animal technicians are responsible for a lot of different things, including husbandry, nutrition, behavior, health, the production and management of laboratory animals. And this has evolved over 50, 60 years now. Thanks to our industry, we have developed vaccines, we have better understanding of anatomy and physiology, we have better antibiotics and better pain meds, we have pacemakers, insulin pumps, and implants for hearing. Our pets have also directly benefited from this, thanks to vaccines for rabies, distemper, respiratory diseases, and leukemia, among many others. So, the American Association for Laboratory Animal Science, which is the organization that is going to give you the exam that will correlate to your certification level, this organization started in the late 1940s. That's when laboratory animal science was formalized. In the 1950s, the Animal Care Panel was formed, and that Animal Care Panel became ALAS in 1967. ALAS produces two different journals. One of them is Comparative Medicine. The second is the Journal of American Association of Laboratory Animal Science. And believe it or not, those are questions that you will be asked on the exam. You will be asked what ACP stands for. You will be asked what ALAS stands for. You will be asked what journals they produce and what year the Animal Care Panel formed. It may seem silly, but this is their exam, so they can ask whatever they want. Now, overall, ALAS members believe that working with research animals is a privilege, and that's why the certification levels exist, because we want people to have a better understanding of what they're doing so that they can do a better job than maybe somebody who doesn't know all of that information. ALAS members feel that animals must be treated respectfully, carefully, and responsibly, and that they want to promote animal health and welfare while serving the needs of the research community. These are all important values for ALAS. But why use animals for research at all? Aren't there ways of doing it without animals? And while yes, we are moving towards being able to shift some types of research to non-animal models, we still really need to be able to understand the processes that are similar in both animals and humans. That hasn't changed much as we might like it to. But because of that, the researchers need to accept the responsibility of caring for those animals, supporting quality research, and complying with regulatory requirements. They can't just wake up one day and decide that they want to run a research project. There's a lot more to it. There are, of course, differing opinions to this. Animal research is controversial, and that is understandable. We love animals, and we don't always agree with all types of it, including things like cosmetic testing, toxicology. We can struggle with that and still do our job. However, groups such as PETA and the Humane Society of the United States, which incidentally is not the same as our local humane societies, those two groups are more lobbyist actions that are trying to halt all types of animal research for any reason whatsoever, which is interesting because when asked, the majority of people in America recognize the importance of animal research. And we do use alternatives when possible. We also offer better statistical models. We try to do better research that provides significant results, which basically means that the science is trustworthy, while using fewer animals. And federal regulations and guidelines are there to ensure that animal research is done in an ethical and humane manner. Those regulations tie to animal welfare, and that becomes vital to technicians because you are the individuals who are with the animals every day. You're going to be making sure that we are following all of the regulations to care for those animals to the best of our ability. So, who makes up the members of the laboratory animal research team? The principal investigator, or the PI, is probably the most well known. Their names are on those animal cages or on the printed reports. That individual plans and coordinates all of the work. They're the ones writing and developing the protocols and the grants. They may be performing the experiments or dictating how those experiments should be performed. They'll be interpreting data and then reporting those findings to the scientific community. They're going to have co-investigators as well as research technicians that also perform the experiment and collect, organize, and interpret that data. The laboratory animal veterinarian coordinates animal care. They advise the PI on proper animal model selection and use. They're responsible for animal health, and they're responsible for the compliance with the animal-related regulations and policies. So when you go back to the advising PIs on proper animal model selection and use, we always want to start research with an animal that is lower on the phylogenetic tree. You wouldn't want to just start with a monkey or a rabbit if a mouse might be a more appropriate model, or even a zebrafish or a snail or an earthworm. Those are important things, and the veterinarians can help guide the PIs as to which animal model might be more appropriate. Your laboratory animal technicians are essential members. I can't tell you this enough. It's in all caps for a reason. The animal techs are the ones who help reduce variables and variation in care. So you're doing the same thing day in, day out, according to the SOP, so that the research is solid. You're performing health assessments. You're looking at every animal every day, 7 days a week, to make sure that they are as healthy as possible. And if they aren't, you're reporting that information. You're following instructions, both verbal and written, as well as SOPs. And then it's essential that you're reporting any changes in the environment, in the health, in the care. If the feed looks different, if the bedding looks different, if the lights are going off too early or aren't on when you come in the morning, if the rooms are too hot, or if they feel like there's too much humidity, or if it's too loud, you're the ones with the boots on the ground reporting those things to your managers so that we can help eliminate variables. You also want to be reporting any changes in handling methods. With the larger mammals, it's a little bit different than with the smaller ones. And then, very important, and this is so hard, if a mistake gets made, owning up to it or recognizing it so that the products, sorry, not the products, so that the proper procedure can be followed for that reporting in case that does have an impact on the research. In order to do these things successfully, you would need to have some good confidence in your abilities and knowledge, which is why you're here listening to this, as well as maturity and honesty, because being ethical is paramount to this industry. Some other important team members are your commercial animal providers, and what that means are the places that we go to purchase our rabbits and our mice and potentially our non-human primates. Our feed vendors, our cage and equipment suppliers, those are all very important members of the laboratory animal research team. So we talked a little bit about knowing regulations. Regulations include things like institutional policies. Every facility that you ever work at, anywhere in the world, they're going to have different policies, different nuances, and you're going to need to know what those are. For instance, OHSU is a tobacco-free facility, so I added this signage. And this information, by the way, is important for the ALATs too. You need to know that institutional policies will be different company to company, but also there are federal laws that mandate things like treating people equally, um, preventing sexual harassment, discrimination, anything sexual overtures or offensive behaviors. Laws are on the books to prevent those actions. And then your institutions will have policies regarding workplace violence, conflicts of interest. So maybe working for a pharmaceutical company while also working for animal care. If you were working multiple jobs, that could be a conflict of interest. Not smoking or using tobacco at work or consuming alcohol at work. And then always, always, always reporting noncompliance with federal or institutional policies. Do you know how to do that? Do you know who to talk to about those things? What about animal welfare? If there's an issue, who would you report that to? What issues might you see? At the Primate Center, we have these signs on all of our doors saying that we take animal care and well-being seriously. If you have concerns about animal care, we want to hear them, and it is your responsibility to report those concerns. You can report those concerns by going to the Integrity Department's website or by calling their 1-800 number, 1877 number. And those reports can be done confidentially and anonymously without caller ID. I can validate this, having been asked by IACUC to weigh in on a couple of reports that they had no idea who reported an issue, but they absolutely took action to address it. So if a complaint is reported, that complaint then gets investigated, and action, depending on what it is, will be taken in some way, shape, or form. That is going to happen at any one of our facilities throughout Oregon. And if any of you have questions about that, let me know, and I'm happy to discuss it with you further. Interpersonal relationships and teamwork. This is such a weird thing for ALAS to care about, but they do because we all have an important factor and impact on each other and other people in the facility. So having respect for one another is actually very important. It's hard to come into this job and not have an open mind and listen to others. Being open and respectful in your communication really does make this job a lot easier. Um, if you are referring to a veterinarian or you are overhead paging them, using Dr. So and so on those pages is a respectful communication that shows that you understand that they are a veterinarian and you want them to receive that respect. Effective listening is one of those interpersonal soft skills that is undervalued but is so badly needed. Being able to hear what a person is saying and not just react to what they are saying. Having clear verbal communication as well as written communication. So being able to send an email or leave a voicemail message that is understandable. Those things are very important in keeping your teamwork a lot smoother. Problem solving is one of those things that you're always going to deal with, no matter who you are, where you work. Hopefully, you are able to participate in some of the continuing education classes that are specific for problem solving, as well as conflict resolution, because we are all going to deal with conflict at some point in time. If it's a minor issue, hopefully you will be willing to address that with the person directly. And if that is something that is more complex, utilize your manager or your supervisor. But it is really important, regardless, to resolve those conflicts quickly, because when those problems fester, it does end up impacting the animals because we are not doing our job as effectively as we could be. The Animal Welfare Act has a provision that discusses whistleblowers. They mandate protection for employees who discover and report possible issues of noncompliance in the facility. That person has immunity from prosecution and has immunity from negative treatment at work. There can be no repercussions. So if you report something that is of a significant noncompliance, first off, it's your responsibility, and second off, you can't be fired or reprimanded for doing it. And this is a really important thing. You need to know that the Animal Welfare Act is a federal act. So this isn't a state thing, this is a federal thing, and it is very serious. We'll talk about the Animal Welfare Act specifically in upcoming chapters, but I do want you to know that this is a protection that is offered to anybody that makes a complaint. So let's talk a little bit about career opportunities. If you are sitting here listening to this, it's because you care about your career. Maybe you care about making a little bit more money, and that's okay. Maybe you care about learning as much as you can to help the research or help the animals, and that is awesome too. But being here is pretty darn important. And as a certified technician, you actually have a huge open door to do anything that you want, pretty much anywhere in the country, if not potentially the world. I will tell you that I received my ALAT and LAT while I was still working in Boston, and I came on to the Primate Center in 96 as I think the first LAT2 that they had hired from the outside. That's changed since because thankfully we've had more credentialed people come over, but I was the first one who moved here specifically to work at the Primate Center. And having that LAT opened that door very quickly. If you are interested in this industry being your career long term, you have a lot of opportunities. You can work in public health organizations, you can work in research, you can also work at teaching institutions. You could do pharmaceutical companies, biological product developers, there are chemical companies, consumer product development, animal feed companies, as well as commercial animal suppliers. I wanted to also direct you to the ALAS organization since that is the group that you will be taking this exam from. And I wanted to point out that ALAS is not the same as OALAS. OALAS is one of the 38 branches nationally of ALAS. So Oregon branch of the American Association of Laboratory Animal Science is not the same as ALAS. So when you are ready to take your exam, you will need to sign up to be a member of ALAS in order to get a discount on your certification exam. So we have three different levels of certification here, and that is provided by the Certification and Registry Board, the CRB. Again, that's one of those little things that you'll need to know for the exam, what CRB stands for and what the three levels of certification are. So you have your ALAT or your Assistant Laboratory Animal Technician, your LAT, which is your Laboratory Animal Technician, and your LATG, the Laboratory Animal Technologist. And it's very common that the ALAT is a requirement for entry-level animal care positions. And and higher levels may call for the LAT or LATG. Each level calls for different types of knowledge. So your ALAT or your Assistant Laboratory Animal Technician, it can be an entry level. It doesn't have to be. But it does tend to have a lot more emphasis on cage cleaning, feeding, watering, room sanitizing, monitoring your animals, the environment. All of them have different levels of record keeping. All of them have different levels of handling and restraining your animals. You would need to be able to determine males from females, as well as possibly apply and definitely read identification tags, and provide routine treatments such as nail trims, ear cleaning, things like that. I try to use pictures to help remember things. So here's your bag of monkey chow, a cage that needs to be cleaned, an animal helping with the power washing, some record keeping, and your thermometer for monitoring your environment. LATs have all of that information and more. So with the LATs, it's important that they are staying up to date with current husbandry methods and current research methodology. They should be a little bit more forward thinking in humane practices and bringing more things to the table regarding husbandry. They're also going to be doing record keeping and updating records, potentially running diagnostic testing. I feel like at the Primate Center, we do that everywhere where we're collecting parasitology or cultures. Um, becomes everybody's responsibility. Training could happen at the LAT level, especially if you have newer staff coming on board. A lot of times, our seasoned staff take the newer members under their wing and show them the ropes. And a lot of times, the LATs are first level supervisors. At the Primate Center, we look at that as our lead technicians, and different groups call them different things. And the LATs are going to be supporting vet staff quite frequently. And then your technologists, those are more of your senior level team members. And the reason for that is many times it takes several years to go from your ALAT to your LATG. So you have a lot more experience under your belt, therefore, they tend to be senior level members. They are often trainers, they may be facility managers. Again, they need to be up to date on current husbandry methods and current research methodology, as well as knowing what the newest and best humane practices are.
This discussion focused on preparing for the ALAS certification exam, covering Chapter 1. Key points included the evolving field of animal science, the importance of animal welfare, the structure of the animal, and the structure of the laboratory animal research team. Specific metrics highlighted were the development of vaccines, advances in medicine, and the role of ALAS in promoting ethical research. This session also addressed the importance of record keeping, training requirements, and practical aspects such as interpersonal relationship, time management, and delegation strategies. We hope you have enjoyed this lesson.